Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you all. This is your host, Amina Ahmed, and you're watching Muslim Network TV. Welcome back to NextGen, where we speak about current events with young people who are involved with the issues in their community. You're watching us on Galaxy 19 satellite, MuslimNetwork.tv, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, and Apple TV as well. Now, the topic that we will be discussing today is one that continuously comes up in this country, particularly during presidential campaigns and elections. We saw it back in 2016 with former President Donald Trump constantly talking about building a wall to keep illegal immigrants, like he said, out, and as well as deporting those who sought refuge here in the United States as well. Even prior to former President Donald Trump, we had in the Obama administration between 2009 and 2016 about 3.2 million deportations. Today in the United States, over 500,000 people are in a system of jails across the country run by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, also known as ICE, who, by the way, has enormous amounts of human rights violations and cases filed against it by many organizations, for one, Human Rights Watch. But in order to speak about ICE deportations and detentions, let's have a 17-year-old young activist who has personally been affected by this. Back in 2014, when she was just 10, 11 years old, her father was deported, sent to a detention center. We have with us Faith San Martin, who is extremely politically involved and speaks up for her community. And she's currently running up her Gold Award project in order to aid young people and grant them comfort while their families may be dealing with deportation. Thank you so much, Faith, for being here with us today, and thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you so much for having me. This is an amazing opportunity, and I can't wait to talk about everything that we're talking about because it's very important.
Indeed, it is very important. But just for our audience who might not be as familiar with ICE, what its purpose is, can you tell us a bit about ICE?
Yeah, ICE stands for Immigration Customs Enforcement. And what that basically is that there are some police officers, if you will, that are kind of in the immigration sector that look at things when immigrants come across the border or are applying for citizenship, and look at, are they criminals? Are they doing anything wrong? Are they violating some laws, some rules? And they really take those people and they say that they take care of them and, take care of the country, but it's just a vast background that happens to this ICE administration that really is pretty inhumane. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think you describe it as inhumane. That is, it is something that has been a label used for it constantly. But Faith, you are extremely involved at such a young age. What has kind of led up to that? I know your father was deported and detained. Tell us about how that perhaps motivated you to do the work that you do.
Yeah, my father was deported, like you said, in 2014. I was about 10 years old, I think turning 11. And I was in there, so I remember so many things that happened to him just by seeing his face. I knew that he wasn't eating enough. I knew that he was very sad and depressed, and I couldn't even touch him because we had this glass in front of us, so I couldn't hug him or anything during my last visit. I remember him being arrested multiple times for doing things that weren't even that other people wouldn't be arrested for. I remember he didn't have a lot of opportunities to, vote, to get a driver's license, to do things that we take for granted sometimes because of his status, because he was illegal, which I don't think that any person is legal. Undocumented immigrants have a very hard time in the process to be citizens, and which many people do not know. So as my father was deported, I felt very alone because there are support systems for foster children and divorced children who have divorced parents. But at that time, during in school or anything, I didn't have a support system. Nobody came up to me. Nobody asked how I was doing. It wasn't great. It wasn't a great system. And so I only felt alone unless I was with my family. But that was different because we were all going through the same thing. And so as I grew older, I realized that not a lot of people knew about the immigration process, and I didn't either. I had some type of idea, because not only was my father undocumented or immigrants, most of my family was, most of his side of the family were, and so as I learned about it and as I spoke with people who really didn't know anything and just wanted to voice their opinion without it, I remember for an advocacy project during my keyboarding class freshman year, I really looked into it, and I found so many things that don't even make sense in the requirements. For example, you have to live for a certain amount of months in the United States in order to apply for a visa, but in those months they can catch you and just take you away, which makes no sense. And as I was interviewing a lawyer, her name is Amanda Garcia, she's really amazing, for my project, she told me that sometimes as immigrants come, or like on visas or work visas, if the person doesn't believe them, they can just take them into a detention center. And if that is revoked, they have to wait a certain amount of years to apply again. And those cost a lot of money. And that's not even citizenship. So as I learned about all of those things, obviously it's dear to my heart, it's close to my heart. I really decided that I wanted to make a change because nobody was talking about it, and that's what my Gold Award is about. That's what my project is about. I aspire for it to be a nonprofit organization because I feel that contact comfort is so important, and I want children to know that there's someone there for them, and we are fighting to reunite their families, because nobody should ever go through that at all. So, yeah.
Indeed, right? No one should have to go through that. And I think that it takes a lot of bravery to speak about an issue that is so close to your heart, that has impacted you so personally. You said that freshman year was really when you started to look into all of this and the process of immigration, how difficult it is, and that the fact that many people are not aware of those difficulties. But ever since, freshman year, what have you been able to accomplish so far? What are some of those other projects that you've taken on?
Oh yeah, I've done a lot of things, not just in the immigrant sector, but human rights is my big issue that I talk about. So through the Gold Award, I really have been doing as much as I possibly can. I've been interviewing other students like me who I met through the QuestBridge network, which is really amazing because I didn't really think that, I knew that there were people like me, but there were not some in the community. So when I met them and I heard their stories that were so similar to mine, I really had this connection with them, and I was very touched by all of the stories that I have. And for anyone that has volunteered to interview with me, and if you're watching, thank you so much. I really appreciate what you do and what we're trying to give to the public, what we're trying to tell the public. I met with lawyers such as Amanda Garcia, who has really taught me a lot in the legal sector or in the other side, where they're trying to help other people, where they're trying to help people. And the stories that I've heard are really amazing, such as the visa parts. There's also, she informs me that there are some ICE detention centers right now, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, who aren't taking it very precautiously, and they're affecting so many undocumented immigrants, even though they probably did nothing wrong. They didn't deserve it, and everyone's just getting infected because when you're in a detention center, it's not like there's 10 people, there's about 1,000 people. It's very secluded. And so as they're packing everyone up and this pandemic is coming, there's not much, or there is something that you can do, but they refuse to do anything. And so what they usually do is just get COVID-19 like disinfectants, like Lysol stuff, that is stronger. And in a place where there are about 1,000 people, they're being affected. Their eyes are bleeding. They have rashes. It's a whole case in Adelanto, California, in that detention center, because it's so inhumane. People have died. People have been at more risk. People have had trouble with like breathing in their lungs and lung problems. It's very inhumane. So the things that I have done was kind of bring that out to the public. I've shared so many things on Instagram. Obviously, for movements like these, I could have been in marches, but we take the pandemic pretty seriously, so I haven't been able to do that for a while. But just sharing something, just bringing it out to the public, just sharing it to your friends, and making them read it because it's important is so amazing to me. My advocacy project for my AP government class really opened my classmates' eyes to the to the dangers of immigration and how to get there. I remember, in a Spanish class, we learned about La Bestia, which is a train that doesn't stop. It doesn't stop, that immigrants have to run towards and catch it. There are rafts that they need to be done. There are so many risks that you take once you cross the river or once you try to make it to the border, or you pay a coyote, which is someone that helps you get there, but you have to pay so much money to even for them to even help you. And so, like, with all of that, I really put everything into this project to make everyone learn not just the impact that kids have, but the entire immigration process itself, because we need immigration reform. That's something that I've been saying since my freshman year of high school. So
And you have been doing a lot to raise awareness, to talk about the reform that needs to be done. I think, myself, I'm a first generation American. My parents are immigrants, and I think their struggle and what they've been through, I think, is just so underrated. We never speak about it. We are extremely privileged, right? I mean, I am, I think, to kind of have the benefits of all that it took for them to come here. So I think that it's important that we talk about that immigration process, and that, what do you think, right, that the United States needs to do in order to make immigration easier, in order to block out all of those difficulties that you have researched and spoken about?
yeah, of course, there are so many things that we can do. Immigration reform is one of them. There are so many people in the House of Representatives that have advocated for this because it's so inhumane. There shouldn't be a reason why someone has to wait a couple of years until they get a green card. Sometimes they even ask for one, and the transportation or communicative systems aren't funded by the government. They're funded by its applicants, which means that it costs a lot of money, and it's also in the middle of nowhere sometimes. I remember reading this article about this person who wanted their wife to be to have citizenship, and they had to drive about 4 hours away from the city, in the middle of nowhere, basically in a rural area, to even get somewhere. So with all of that happening, we can not eliminate, but decrease the costs. We can decrease the amount of time that you have to stay. We can have people actually come here and stay, have a reason to stay, so that ICE doesn't capture them and bring them out, even when they're trying to do everything right. Like, there's so many things that we can do, starting with those stuff. And I believe that our generation, because you're also my age, we can do something about it. So
I definitely agree. Let's talk about what we can do about this right after our short break. You're all watching us on Galaxy 19 satellite, MuslimNetwork.tv, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, and Apple TV as well. We'll be right back. Welcome back to NextGen. I'm here with Faith San Martin, who is an activist who's extremely politically involved and speaks up for those in her community. Now, Faith, what is your ultimate goal, right? What do you hope to accomplish at the end with the advocacy and the activism that you do?
Yeah, in the immigration part, I just want to make it easier for people to come here, to not be ridiculed for coming here, to not be insulted for coming here, for people to understand that there's a reason why they come. They just don't come to be criminals. Like our former president said, when Mexico brings its people, they're not bringing their best. There are so many things that come with it. There are dangers in it. They're not living like they're supposed to. They really just want a better life. The majority of them want a better life, and that should be something that they should achieve in the land of the free, or so you think. Mm-hmm. So I really want it to be easier for people to come. I don't want any type of separation of families, because even though they're not being separated at the border, deportation is still separation, and those children have to live with that all the time, and sometimes they don't know how to deal with it. Sometimes their significant other who isn't undocumented doesn't know how to deal with it. It's very hard to even keep in touch with someone like my father, because maybe the time zones could be different. Maybe they have to work 10 times as hard as they did in the United States. There are so many factors that come with it. So the goal I want to be a congresswoman. So the goal in that part, the goal in what I would do in legislation is to make it easier for people to come, make it more humane for people to come, and give them a reason to stay, make it easier for them to actually think that they can succeed in this country.
That is beautiful, right? I think all of your goals are things that we should already have, right? This isn't something that people should have to be fighting for day in and day out. But Faith, have you faced any backlash or criticism for the work that you do? And if so, what scale have you faced that at?
I actually, in my project, I've been so supported by 4 organizations. They're amazing to me. The National Organization for Women, Standing Up Against Racism at Woodstock, the McHenry County Diversity Project, and now Kankakee Connect, who wants to partner with us. And I'm very excited to say that because they're partnering with us, once we get sponsors, we are able to send the bears, the stuffed animals, to 21 families across the country, which is really amazing to me, because in the start of it last March, it's about to be a year, I really almost gave up on it because people told me that it's very hard to do. And I'm so happy that I kept faith in it, because it's something that really needs to happen. So I remember freshman year, what really made me get into this entire research on immigration, not just my father, but I had an experience, or I've had experiences where some students would say that immigrants just have to come legally and then everything's fine, right? Which is not that's not even a thing, because they don't understand the systems. They don't understand like the type of regulations and steps that they have to go through. And the reason why sometimes waiting a couple of years is not enough. I mentioned that there's danger in the country, and they really have to flee an exploited country. So that kind of backlash, I had a student laugh at me one time with other students in the classroom during a Socratic. And for a Socratic is when we sit in a circle and we all talk about different things. And I spoke my truth about immigration and how what Trump said about Mexicans was inhumane and it wasn't right, and it's really hard to get in. And they said that, Trump didn't hate Mexicans, didn't dislike undocumented immigrants. He just wanted them to come here legally, and then we'd be cool. But that's not how it works. That's never how it works. And for them to even say that sometimes, without even knowing the process, without even knowing the type of tears that go into it and the money that goes into it, was what motivated me to really research it. So that was the kind of backlash that I had. But I didn't have anyone tell me that I shouldn't do the project or the project wouldn't do anything.
Right. And I think that to say something like that, it takes a lot of ignorance, right? And you just have to be willfully ignorant and not want to listen to another person's story, because for someone to leave a country and not know what is ahead of them, not know what their future is like or what the dangers in the next country can be as well, it has to take a lot, right? And that is why these people are fleeing, because they are facing persecution, poverty, and all of these things that you have also mentioned before. But Faith, what do you think that now, the new administration, the Biden administration, what do you think they can do? How can they help support the policies that you have in mind?
Yes, the Biden administration actually just cut off the separation of families at borders, from my understanding, which is really amazing. I'm so happy that that's happening, because I saw videos or recordings and they were just so heartbreaking, and it reminded me of when my father left me or when he was detained for the first time. And so what I think that the Biden administration should push for is, again, immigration reform. There are so many people in the House like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders who really push for an immigration reform, who push for people to come in a humane way and in a more easy way, because there's so many, when you look at it, there are so many loopholes that come into it that it makes absolutely no sense, and you're convinced that it's made for people to fail, and I'm convinced that it is. So what we need to push for right now is immigration reform, and I think most people in the House are on board for it, that there's probably no reason, since Democrats are both in the House and the Senate control, there's absolutely no reason that we can't do it in the next 4 years. That's what I believe in.
Yeah. I mean, there shouldn't be any reason, we shouldn't be able to accomplish that, because a lot of these Democratic politicians have promised us immigration reform. I'm not going to say that we've necessarily seen those promises accomplished once they've gotten into office, but that is something that indeed we should push for. But before we end today, I want you to leave our audience with something that they can do. What can they do to get involved and to fight the right fight, the fight that you have been working on for so long?
Yeah, there are so many ways that you can get involved. First of all, my project, I think the website's going to be somewhere around here. If not, I can just put it in the chat or a Facebook group. But my project really advocates for immigration reform. It talks about the immigration systems. There's a presentation about it in the website, and my story that's in there. Just donating a bear, just being a sponsor helps you get one step closer to our goal that we need, helping that family have some type of security and love in their lives, knowing that somebody outside of them wants them to know that they are there for them. It goes a long way. There are so many ways that you can join about it. There's also joining the diversity projects in your area, joining immigration reform things in your area. In the greater Chicagoland area, there are so many organizations that advocate for immigration reform. And I know that there's this organization called Mano a Mano, and they're amazing. They actually help immigrants achieve citizenship in, I guess, in the legal way or in the right way, but also in a humane way. And it pushes for immigration reform as well. There are so many things that you can do just by donating money, just by sending a message to someone, really goes a long way. You don't have to donate $1,000. Our bears cost only about $10 per bear. And just knowing that you have made one kid happy goes a very long way. And we are grateful for your contribution.
Thank you so much, Faith. I encourage all of you to go support her project and to check out her work as well. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is very fun.
It was a pleasure to have you and to hear your story and the story of your bravery and courage. And to our audience, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, you'll catch us on NextGen. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you all.